Hello once again, everybody, and thank you for joining me here on this Friday, January 29th edition of ATS Radio. I'm your host, Adam Burke. I'll be joined today by Dave Sharapan. You know him as at Sportsbook Consigliere on Twitter. A brilliant man to follow, a brilliant man to listen to on all of his podcast appearances, including his own for Gaming Today. We'll chat with him about the Super Bowl 55 here, the Chiefs and the Buccaneers. We'll talk about side and total. We'll talk about some prop stuff, but also about the experiences that he's had on the other side of the counter booking the Super Bowl in risk rooms throughout most of his professional career. Should be a lot of fun talking with Dave on today's show. It's always a lot of fun over at ATS.io. Lots of content for the Super Bowl coming your way over the next, 9 days away from the game here. So we got 9 days worth of covering prop bets, all kinds of betting angles, lots of great stuff for the Super Bowl. But we have not forgotten about the NHL, college basketball, and the NBA. I'm working on my 2021 MLB betting guide. That'll come out here in probably about 4 weeks' time or so. That's kind of the time frame that I'm shooting for, taking a look at all 30 teams from a season win total standpoint, not to mention all of the division futures, pennant futures, World Series, Cy Young, MVP, all that kind of good stuff. So looking forward to producing that MLB betting guide, previously under Bang the Book, now for the first time under ATS.io. Make sure you download the ATS app, which you can find in the Google Play Store or in the Apple Store. Full article integration from the website, a bet tracker, an odds screen, lots of helpful handicapping resources and betting tools for you to check out in that ATS app. So make sure you download that today. With that, we bring on today's guest. That is Mr. Dave Sharapan at Sportsbook Consig on Twitter. Dave, how's it going today, man?
Adam, what's up, man? I am sitting here in Las Vegas with my Pittsburgh Pirate hat on because football season is only one game left, and there's a long, cold February in between when pitchers and catchers report. So I can't wait for baseball season, and I actually, hearing that lead in, I can't wait to even just mention what the Pirates season wins number is going to be. So I don't want to put you on the spot, but maybe by the end of the show we can come up with that. But we got a lot to talk about in between. I can't wait.
Oh man, Pirates season win total. Well, it's going to be higher than their millions of dollars in payroll. At least there's that. Both of our teams. Both of our teams, just the race to the bottom in payroll. It's a really fun time to be a baseball fan in a small market.
It is, but again, you're probably looking at it a lot different than the regular fan or someone that may be looking to bet against them every game. I mean, they're still going to win. You would hope 50 games. I mean, 50 and 112 that's really bad. I mean, can it be that number? I mean, but while we're recording this podcast, the Pirates may have made another trade just to get rid of someone else. Like, I don't know it's literally the actual major league movie coming true in both of our cities. Who are these guys? I don't know.
No, absolutely. It's going to be a tough year for Pirates fans, probably a tough year for Indians fans, kind of the way that I'm sort of looking at some of the projections. Maybe they'll be better than anticipated, but it's kind of nice to sit here and forecast the baseball season while there's snow floating around outside. At least it makes me realize that warmer weather's coming. Speaking of snow, you even had some this week.
Man, so I'm in the northwest part of the city, and we woke up, and the kids went outside, and they're like, you got to come see this. You got to come see this. And I'm like, I went outside, and I thought I was in Pittsburgh. There were 2 inches of snow right on the street in front of me, right on the cars parked on the street. Like, what is going on right now? And the best part about it was 2 things. My little one, who turned 7 yesterday, Kendall, went outside this was probably the 3rd or 4th time in her life ever seeing snow. And, her sisters are 17 and 15. Everybody's excited. So we're not really prepared for it. We don't have the gloves. We don't have the hats. We just put on a little heavier jacket, and she's still wearing like tennis shoes and out in the snow for 2 minutes. She goes, all right, I'm done. I'm going back in. So it wasn't as big a deal to her. And I'm like, yeah, that's my kid, because I don't really like the snow that much either. But the kid across the street is from San Francisco. And he came outside and said, hey, I don't know how to drive in this. I've never done this before. And there was 2 inches of snow. So, you know, us, I mean, like that's a dust thing. That's nothing. I'm like, hey, just drive down the street real slow. Don't slam on the brakes. And when you turn, just kind of turn with caution. And we were laughing because he started his car and he moved a little bit and then he hit the brakes. And then he moved a little bit and hit the brakes. And I was telling my kids, this is what happens when you don't know how to drive in the snow. Because I've been trying to tell them as they're learning to drive and get their license, you need to know what to do. You don't have to do it all the time. But if you're somewhere and it snows, you know, you can come call me and I'll come get you. But like, you have to learn how to drive in this. So it was fun, man. It's good. But like, I remember too, like, I don't know, the sun's coming up here now. I think the current temperature is 36 or 37. So it gets cold in the desert in January and February, you know, so we'll see. I'm supposed to go to a softball tournament this weekend up in Kingman. And between you and I, if it gets postponed because of weather, I'm okay with that, because if it doesn't, it's going to be really cold.
21 degrees here. So at least you're doing a little bit better than we're doing in these parts. But yeah, you know, and it's funny too. I mean, I would just kind of say in general, rain, snow, doesn't really matter. Nobody in Vegas knows how to drive based on the experiences I've had out there. I'm sure you could speak to a lot of those if we had, you know, 7 or 8 hours to do today's show.
Yeah. Nobody can drive in Vegas. That's a big price. That's a big number. That's a big favorite, because I mean, I'm trying to, you know, I sit in the passenger seat while the kids are driving, and I'm constantly explaining, you're not driving just for you. You're driving for everyone else on this road. And like, no one's looking at you. So you got to be careful cutting over, us merging. It's a unique thing. I think back East, we learned how to drive with people in mind and consideration and, you know, whatever. Here, this is West Coast. This is a lot of California influence, where they're driving like they're the only car on the road, despite there being 6 lanes on a freeway and people zipping in and out. And you're just like, yeah, okay, this is my road. Yeah, it's a way different mentality.
No, absolutely. And all right, now that we got your blood pressure going a little bit, let's go ahead and talk about Super Bowl 55 here between the Chiefs and the Buccaneers. And you know, I sound like a broken record on the show here over the last few days, because this line just, it ain't moving. You know, it's kind of a set it and forget it type of thing. 3 with extra juice on the Kansas City side, 56, the predominant total. You'll find a 56.5 out there if you want to take it at this point in time, but I don't know really why you would. So your initial thoughts here, I guess it's not really initial thoughts anymore. This line's been up for 5 days, but your thoughts on 3 with extra juice and 56 for this game, Dave?
The story isn't the line that it is now. The story is going to be who gets off the 3, because with the volume of the game, with the lack of, I mean, for better term, we've seen this matchup before, and it was in week 12, and this was the line. Like, it was 3.5, and 56 is what it closed. And so I don't know what's going to cause it to move, but I know that the book that moves off of the 3 is either going to get, you know, the bag, BAG, of money from someone, and it's going to be, you know, different books, different amounts, but it's a big bag, and it's a big amount to get off of the 3, or it's from someone who they just think knows. And I don't think you're going to see this thing move until this might move Friday or Saturday. But I don't think it's going to move off the 3 until then. And I will be very interested to see when it moves, how many others move with them. You know, because like South Point has that 3 no juice thing in Vegas. Everyone else has juice on it. 3 lay 20. There's a 3 lay 15 somewhere, but everyone has 3 lay 20 except the South Point. So if they get off the 3, they've taken the bet. That was the side that, you know, whoever deemed between, you know, Chris and Jimmy and stuff over there, they're going to go, all right, we got to take a bet on the other side, because this is probably the right side. So yeah, I think that's the story. You know, if we move off the 3, the total open high because it had to. Who's looking to bet this game? under. So you got to take the under bets to get the number down. Week 2 of this, and, I just saw a story yesterday. In Vegas, at least, you're going to be allowed to have 25% capacity. 25% capacity. So this is going to be a Super Bowl weekend that has never been in Vegas. It's only gotten bigger and bigger and bigger. And I talked about the impact of, books and states having these types of parties in other states where they were a lot closer. They didn't have to spend that much money to travel. And they didn't have – they don't get the Vegas experience, but if you're looking for a Super Bowl weekend, you can go to Jersey and have the same or better experience. So, you don't have to come out here. Now you can only have 25% capacity. I don't know how much money is coming to move it. So the total's 56 now, like you said. I don't think it goes much below that. And if it closes back up to 57, I would be surprised. I think 56 is probably the number we sit at. It's boring. Let's hope the game's not boring. We need a good game. Like we don't need another dud 13-3 game like we got with the Patriots and the Rams a couple years ago, where we went in with the total pretty high, and the only people that were happy with that 13-3 game were all the books and all the guys that I was hanging out with last night at the Superbook. Everyone that bets the under and all the props. That's it. It was like when a 7 out hits a craps table and the only people who are happy are on the don't pass line. We can't have that in the Super Bowl. Like, not with this matchup. Chiefs, Bucks, Mahomes, Brady, please. Let's get both teams in the 20s, by halftime. Let's have 21-17 at halftime and let's go, in-game will be fantastic. People will be loving it with the props. That's what I'm hoping for. I don't know if it's going to happen, but that's what I'm hoping for.
And I don't want to diminish what the bookmakers, the risk room guys, the originators do, because I know it's not an easy job. And of course, I have one on the air right now. So I certainly don't want to, talk bad about anything that you guys do on that side of the counter. But like you talked about, this is not that hard of a number to set. I mean, this game was just played a few weeks ago. In fact, because Tampa Bay got into the back door, it fell very close to the number anyway. Total did fall a little bit short, but the yardage was clearly there in that game to fly over the total. So this was a pretty easy one to set. And as you mentioned, you start 57. I think there was a 57.5 maybe on the open at Westgate. And you start 3.5 and you find out, okay, does 3.5 give me Tampa Bay money? Yes, it does. Does 57 give me under money? Yes, it does. And, you've talked about that before. I've heard you mention that both on your Twitter feed and also on other shows, that, you sort of want to find what that high end is to get under money and dog money. And we found that out within minutes after, this line was set.
Setting the line for the Super Bowl during Championship Sunday is one of the coolest, most fun things that I've done in the business, because it's not like setting the Sunday night, lines or the next week's lines Sunday night before next week's football, because there's 16 games and, you got to keep the limits low and you got to watch for, this sharp guy who's looking to beat you on a half a point. This is a Super Bowl. You got one game left. So you start talking about the line, the first game is over, and you go, all right, so Tampa won. So if you have Tampa against KC, what is your number? If you have Tampa against Buffalo, what is your number? And, the guys that go to lunch, the guys that aren't watching the in game, they go get their stuff, and everybody comes back, and you start watching the second game going, all right, I got 3-57 with Kansas City, and I got, pick 'em and 54.5 with Buffalo. Oh, okay. What do you got? Blah, 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 blah. So the number before the game is even at halftime. And you go, okay, well, it was pretty apparent that Kansas City was going to win the game at halftime. I thought so. So I was trading texts with the boys at, different places, and they're like, Sharapan, what do you make it? And I literally, my one line answer was, it's the same as it was in week 12. It's the same. 3.5, 57. It took 2 seconds. And okay, that's what it is. Like, there was no thought. There was no who's going to play what. We already knew. And, I talked to some of the boys in the books. I'm like, how was it? Because the fun is after you put up that first number, like a couple years ago, Rams, Patriots. There was a real debate in the room. Who are they going to bet? And who do you make favored? And you have, this pile that you're going to win if the Patriots win for the futures. And you have this pile who on the Rams, if they're going to win. And both piles are really big. Like you got a way head start because of the futures in Vegas. Like that's an under thing that nobody really talks about. It's under the radar. Like the books in Vegas forever had such a head start. If you manage your future pool in Vegas with people coming from all over the country, you start with like a 7-figure head start on pretty much every team. No matter who wins, you win $1 million or more. So you can kind of play with the line. So if you think it should be 2.5 one way, you can put pick and take some bets because, your position is bigger on that other side. So let's get some money here and work it up. So, yeah, the fun of opening the Super Bowl line is the early action because now the limits – at CG, we took 50 dimes, a whack on the opening number and didn't move it sometimes. Like, take a second one, take a third one because the money's coming. If you don't do, I don't know, just throw out a number, $15, $20 million on the Super Bowl, like you're not doing it right. Like the market was there and it still is. So easy. So you just take, 50 dimes is what the limit is. Well, that's the limit on the games, during the season at a lot of places. That's a healthy limit. Like, maybe some places take 100. Or you're taking 50 on the first number, easy, and not moving it. So this was kind of boring. Like all the guys I talked to said, man, I know it's a pandemic, but man, like even the regulars, like nobody played it. It's I don't know. So. Yeah, if you're looking for the line to move, or you're looking at, there's no sharp side, there's no square side, there's no advantage. It's a Super Bowl, man. This is the hardest game to bet side and total. This is the best line of the football season most of the time. So, find it in the prop market. Find that you want advantages and stuff like that, and all this stuff. It's in the prop market. It's not in the game side or total.
I want to circle back to something that you mentioned regarding futures liability and potential exposure with that. Kansas City, very short price on them. They were the favorite coming out of winning last year's Super Bowl. They've been, one of the favorites pretty much throughout the season. But Tampa Bay took a lot of futures money when they, got Tom Brady and, as things kind of started to set up for them a little bit. How much does, that potential liability come into play when you are, not necessarily setting this number, but when you're balancing this number throughout the 2 weeks of wagering on the game?
If you're paying any attention, it should be a factor. It should have been a factor 3 weeks ago when the playoffs started. And you should have been getting bets, along the way, knowing what could happen if you got to this point. If the Bucs put together 3 in a row and they closed 10-point favorites against Washington, so you basically knew they were going to win that game, and they almost didn't. But yes, it was a good game. But you had to think, oh man, I got 2 games to get some serious money back on these other teams if I have a liability. So, this is what I would do, and I've done. I just said, man, let's have the best price in the world on the Packers. Because it's 5-1 everywhere. We'll make it 7-1 and let somebody bet it to win 100,000. Let's let somebody come in here and whack them. Like, let's go. And who did they play the week before? They played Washington, and then they played the Saints. Oh, the best price on planet Earth I would have had on the Saints. No question, because you only have a week or 2 left. So let's get some more money on the Saints. If I have a red number going into the playoffs on Tampa Bay. You're going to have the best money line in the world on the Saints in the game. You're going to have the best future price on the Saints that week. And you put out a bat signal. And now you can talk about all this stuff on social media. You could, before we used to have to just like put it out on Don Best and, tell everybody that came to the counter and try to advertise it somehow any way you can. Now it's easy. Like you just put it out on social media and say, hey, did you see the prices of the Saints? This book, XYZ, they're 10-1. Everywhere else is 7 or 8. If you should go bet the Saints. So now you can do it. It's easier than ever, but the books don't always see it that way. And why would a guy want to come in and bet 100,000 and win 800,000 on the Saints at 8-1 when why is he doing that now? Well, because it's the best price, and maybe he's hedging. So what? Let's get the money in the pool. Let's get more money in the pot and get that number off Tampa down. I mean, because again, if you're managing the futures right all year, you may have one team where you just didn't believe they were good. Years ago, when the Bears went to the Super Bowl, we took a bet on the Bears in week 2. The supervisor was out front. This was down at the Golden Nugget. I just remembered this story. I can't believe it. She sent approval upstairs to the office, and my guy there just approved the bet because she called and said, hey, somebody wants to bet the Bears, for 5,000. And he's like, okay. And he approved the bet. Didn't look at it. Well, it wasn't to win that week on the money line. It was to win the Super Bowl. And the price, I believe, was either 80-1 or 100-1.
Oh, man.
And he didn't realize it until the next day when he was going through the futures. And he's like, how in the hell did this happen? And he's like, oh, my God. And he went to her and said, was that bet on the Bears this week that you called up about? And she's like, no, it was to win the Super Bowl. It was like, oh, my God, no. So he wasn't the director. He was, the guy underneath. And for every week that the Bears won a game, we were like, oh, no, this is going to be bad. This is going to be bad. Like if they win the Super Bowl, we're all fired, blah, 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 blah. Well, it was week 2. Do you know that that's how I really watched it and learned it, how to manage the futures. It didn't take long. We didn't have Twitter. We didn't have anything. This was early 2000s. This was or mid to like 2005, 2004, 5. I forget what year it was. We can look it up, but it was 2005 or 2006. Anyhow, we took bets on every team in the NFC to just lower that number. Because you take bets on the Bears enough. You don't need to take that bet. So it was crazy. And it was a sweat. And, we took the Bears, their first playoff game. It was like, listen, open the limits on the other side. Like, let's take the bets because if they lose, this game, we'll cancel out the futures and okay, so they'll win this week on whomever say they're playing the Saints. Okay. But we had the best money line on their opponent. So people would come in and bet it. A lot of times if we took a bet, we wouldn't move it. So yeah, it comes into play. It should come into play more and more. I think a lot of books get lazy. I think a lot of books don't care. I think a lot of books don't know. I mean, the guys in Malta or in Sweden managing the risk for a lot of the books back east. Adam, I saw a thing that FanDuel is negative. They were negative to all 4 teams. They had red numbers to all 4 teams going into championship weekend. And I sent some boys that text. I said, is this possible? Or are they just, this has to be a fake tweet. You can't be to the Chiefs and the Bills. You have a losing number, like you losing money to either, like if you didn't know that those were the top 2 teams in the AFC or could be, you just don't know football. And they were bragging. They put it out on their Twitter feed that they had a red number to all 4 teams left in the playoffs. Kansas City, Buffalo, Green Bay, and Tampa. That's impossible. So you can use the future markets to your advantage as a book as well as you can as a bettor. And if you're not, you probably should, because I know a lot of very, very sharp guys that had positions. I mean, I know one personally that I had on my podcast, Tom Lipper, diehard Buffalo Bills Mafia guy, loves them. And, he had a ticket on them at 25 or 30 to 1. Guess what? He ended up with a ticket on all 4 teams, all 4 of them, to make money. He has a position on every one of them. And, it's a nice position. He doesn't have to do anything in the Super Bowl. He's already won money. So I know what he's going to do. He's going to destroy props is what he's going to do. I can't wait to text him this weekend and go, all right, what do you got? Because I would be sitting in a book and saying, all right, Lip, come to the counter. You get 2 dimes a whack. I don't care how many you bet. Just bet them one at a time so I can move it immediately, and then we'll circle back again, and you can have them, every one of them again if you'd like, if you brought enough cash, and let's go. And, he would tell me what he thought by betting, and I would tell him what I thought by moving it. And that was the relationship, man, and that's gone. That's all gone.
So that FanDuel thing is fascinating. And so is your story about the Bears. Was that 05 or 06? Was it the year they made the Super Bowl?
Yes, it was the year they made the Super Bowl. They played the Colts.
Yeah, okay. So it was the 2006 season, Super Bowl 41, I believe it was.
Okay.
Here's my question for you, Dave. And we've talked about this, at least from our side of the counter on the show, from the betting side of the counter, with the fact that, last year's Super Bowl, we had I think 10 or 11 states maybe with legalized sports betting. This year, it's almost half the country. And as you just mentioned, some of these new operators, FanDuel, whether it's true or not, they had some exposure on all 4 teams in the futures market, very significant exposure at that. We've seen that, football hold percentages in states like New Jersey have been much lower than you would expect. I don't know if that's because of all the freebies they give out for signups or if they're just, not really booking the games effectively and efficiently. For you, looking at this as somebody who's been in that risk room, looking at this as, some operators that have to balance 12, 13 different states, you balance the entire world when you were working in Curacao, taking bets in the offshore marketplace. Just sort of, what do you think? How do you think this kind of sets up here for this Super Bowl from the standpoint of, we're still missing 3 of the big states, California, Texas, and Florida, but almost half the country now has access to betting. So what does that mean for you in terms of the Super Bowl, just the overall picture of whether it's from a handle standpoint, from how, these other operators do, just sort of a general overview in your mind?
It's presented an interesting, not debate, but it's a topic of discussion now where I saw it. I think it was last year or the year. It was last year, right? When the Niners played the Chiefs. Mm-hmm. Back East lost. Vegas destroyed it. And the line was similar to this. It was close, 1.5, 2. Did you use the money line effectively? There's so many little nuances that guys that have been doing this for a long time know. If we need a bet on the dog in this game, you don't need to go to 3.5. You know what you need to do? Give me the money line. Give me the best price on the money line. So, if it's minus, 150 or 160 and the take back is 140, well, you know what? Make it a 10-cent line and give them 150. See what they do with it. And you can get the bet back. Well, I don't know if they're doing that, where they're managing the risk from. So you see I don't know. I'm not calling it a lack of skill. It's just a lack of innovation. The line, the money line on the Super Bowl should be a 10-cent line. It's the Super Bowl. How do you have minus 170 plus 150, which everyone has? or minus 165 plus 145. Tighten it up. So if it's me and I need to bet on the Buccaneers, I'm at 165. I'm going to 155, maybe 150. And I'm telling the boss, hey, there's already 150s out there. No, they're not going to bet it if you don't get the best price. Like if you want the bet, the regular person's going to bet it no matter what. They're not price sensitive. So I think it creates an interesting discussion where there may be market bias. I mean, there's no, in Kansas City or Tampa Bay, there's no sports books. But like if there's going to be a Super Bowl in a state with books legal, it's going to be a different market than it would be, in other states. West Coast, East Coast. We saw it last year. Like out West, we had a lot of Niner money. Maybe they didn't get it back there. Maybe, why, if you're going to go bet the game and you live in San Francisco or somewhere in California, you just needed to go to Reno or here. So like Nevada saw a ton of Niner money, whereas maybe they didn't see that back East and that's why they lost on the game. But unless you get sided or like you really just screw up or you take a position, like you can take a position on the game and lose on the Super Bowl, but with a year to take future bets, I'm just not buying it. Like I would love to be able to have someone from FanDuel just explain to me how that's possible, because I could look at their handle and I could look at their ticket count and I could tell you whether it was just coincidence or whether it was just a lack of understanding of how to book it. Because, dude, listen, the baseball market, you can get bets on the Pirates. You can get bets on the Indians. All you got to do is move the number. You can get bets on everybody, especially here. So don't tell me you can't get bets because people aren't betting, futures in New Jersey. Don't tell me you're not getting. I mean, yeah, you're going to get more bets on the Bears in Indiana than most likely any other team except the Colts. So yeah, you're going to need against the home teams, but come on. Nobody's betting the Saints there. Nobody's betting the Tennessee Titans there. You can get bets on all that stuff. So it's inexcusable to me to be a negative number to 4 teams. You can be negative on one. A couple years ago, the Eagles really got everybody by surprise, and nobody believed. While these sharp guys that I know were going around buying 50-1 tickets and buying 40-1 tickets, and they started off 1-1, and then I think they won 8 in a row, and the books were really slow to adjust. So every once in a while, there's a team like that where you don't move it fast enough, and people start to bet it. People start to bet it, and by the time you get to the playoffs, you're at a number. You're not at a decimation number, but you're at a number that's going to be like, damn it, we're going to lose money, or not a big amount, but we're going to lose money if the Eagles win the Super Bowl here. Damn it, so and now maybe you only have a week or two, to get bets, and you don't get it. And, okay, you can have one team like that. You can't have 4, especially the favorites. Like when the favorites win in the big markets like this, between football, when the Yankees or Dodgers win, it's the books are great with that because the prices are low to begin with. So you're going to make a lot of money. So the perception that, the favorites won, so the books lost. No, the favorites winning in these things, the books win. If the dog wins, maybe you win more, but the dog wins and you don't move the number early enough, you could lose. You can't lose when Kansas City wins the Super Bowl. If the number's been 5-1, maybe 7-1 is the highest it's ever been, and you've had a year to book stuff, I don't care what it is. I'll give you 30 things and tell you that the 7-1 wins, and me and you will have a nice vacation at the end of it. Doesn't matter what the market is.
So I want to talk about the prop stuff, and you mentioned that's a great way to attack the game, and I certainly agree with you on that front. I know you were out at the Westgate last night. The team over there put a lot of man hours into putting together their extensive prop catalog. So I want to talk about the booking side of the prop bets here first, where you did work in the offshore industry. You also worked out there in Las Vegas for a long time. Tell us about that process of, either originating some of these prop bets or just, balancing your risk, balancing your action on just an extensive number of things kind of all at the same time.
This thing is, it's one of the hardest things that the guys do every year. And it wasn't like this when I was offshore. We didn't have to do all this stuff. So I always, I was with a guy down there who was like, man, it's one game. I don't even want to deal with this. Can we swear on this, Adam?
Oh, yeah.
He was just like, listen, I don't want to deal with this fucking shit. he was pretty clear. He's like, let them other people do it. Like as the prop started to really, become something right before the year 2000, was down there and stuff. And he was like, yeah, we're not dealing with that. We'll put out the basic stuff, but we don't need that. Okay. So I didn't really see it till I got to Vegas, and it really started to one up. And, between Murray and Sherman and Ed at the Westgate and Rexy and those guys, I mean, they do an unbelievable job. The first year I moved here, I wasn't working, and I went and I did the whole Super Bowl experience as a fan. And I picked up packets all over town, and I was like, this is crazy. Like, there's just so much to pick from. So then when I got back in the room and started to kind of, give and take and get involved in the process, the one thing it starts with is there's a framework from the year before. You take everything and plug and play what you've had the year before. So I was able to be in a room with a guy who's been also doing it for 30 plus years in Vegas and Reno and all this stuff. So he had it already set. Like, you just know the numbers. Like, his first quarter is 10 is the total. The second quarter is probably 17. And you already know what the numbers are in your head because you've done it a million times or close. The fun stuff was the cross sport stuff. I loved it. And so you sit in a room, like me and you are sitting in a room, and we're like, all right, what do we do? Well, we look at the hockey games. Who's playing that day? Oh yeah, we got Penguins Capitals. Perfect. Well, we'll do Ovechkin shots on goal and number of field goals made in the game. How's that? Oh, that's not bad. What time's the Penguins game? Oh, it's early. Perfect. We'll combine that. What do you think? 3.5, 3. Yeah, 3 with juice. Perfect. Put it down. Write it down. And you start going back and forth. And then you start. You go home. You come up with it. You let it marinate for 2 days. You do your own research. Like for me, I couldn't wait to go back when we were going to actually start putting them in the computer and dazzle everybody in the room with a prop that they didn't think of, but they go, oh, that's pretty good. And as odds makers, and just as guys, like yours is going to be better than mine, or no, mine's going to be better than yours. And then like we would make bets, dude. My prop is going to get more action than you. Well, what do you mean? Handle, like volume or number of tickets? Well, let's do both. And we would make a number on a prop bet for each other just to give each other shit. Like mine's going to have yours, and we would bet it. Whether you bet actual money, whether you bet lunch, whatever it is, that's what we did. So, yeah, man, it's a lot of fun. Booking it, now you put all your work out for everybody to hammer, and you get instantaneous feedback. I was at the M. The first year we opened was 2009. So it was the Super Bowl after that, February 2010. And that was the first year that we booked props. It was the first year we were open for the Super Bowl. We wrote, we told everybody, and we were taking everything. There was no limits. Like if you wanted 100,000 on a game and it was Tuesday and it was the NBA, like we figured out a way to take it. We may have to split the bet and give you 50 on -8 and let us move it to 8.5 or 9. And if you want it, you can have it. If not, that's all we could take. We would try to take every bet we could. So we had the idea we're going to take 5 dimes on props at the open. I think in 3 hours with 3 or 4 windows dedicated to it, I think the number was 7 figures. I think we wrote $1 million in bets in 3 hours. We had every sharp guy in the world, quote unquote sharp, wannabe sharp, square, rhombus. I that's my nickname for them because everyone wants to give everybody a shape, and I just say rhombus because it's fun. So the rhombuses were there, and they were just going through. We said, listen, you can come to the counter. We gave them 2 bets and moved to the back, 2 bets and moved to the back. And we were cranking out bets and tickets and moving numbers. It was so much fun. I mean, it was fantastic. I was like, oh, this is great. So it's there. And yeah, I mean, like, let's put them up and bet, like, and let's go. And, you know, so the process is fun. Taking the bets is fun. And if you're allowed to. If you're at a book that these are a nuisance and that you really don't want to take bets and you want to limit people to 200 or 300, they're terrible. It's just like droning. Like you can't wait for the game to get here because you're like, oh, we got to move this or we got to tell this guy he can't bet this. Somebody wants to come in and lay Chiefs minus 17.5 and take plus $5. And you can only bet that for 200 because it's going to win $1,000 and you're worried about, oh no, I don't want to get in trouble. And then these things are a pain in the ass. And then you're just like, oh. But if you're allowed to take bets and see action, I used to see guys come in once a year just to bet the props. That's all they did. Whatever they were doing elsewhere, they could do. But they couldn't come in and fire on these props like they did. I had a guy that drove in from with a Winnebago from somewhere up in Utah. Would drive down when they came out. He'd park out in the parking lot. He didn't even get a room in the hotel. He'd park his camper outside, come in, I don't know, drop 6 figures in bets. All right, see you later. You'd see him after the game, or he's a veteran. He always came in Monday to cash. See you next year. Peace out. So it's awesome, man. It can be a fun time. I loved it as far as like making the numbers, trying to top everybody and all that stuff. Like for me, it's all jump the shark. Like, I mean, I don't know how you can come up with more stuff. Like I went down there, you know, last night I picked up this packet. Let me see here. I think it's 36 pages front and back of props. It's insane. It's going to take me 3 days to go through this. You know, I won't know what I'm looking at for a day. But it's fun. And that's what the game's all about. It's the last shot for books and for bettors, football. Take as many bets as you can is what I think.
So I have to ask, you know, with, I mean, obviously it sounds like you had some very big prop decisions, very big game decisions in general while you were there at the M, and I'm sure you had some while you were at Golden Nugget as well. What are some that stand out, whether they were wins for the book or losses for the book? I mean, what are some of the biggest ones? Kind of give us your story time from the sports book thing of, you know, like what are some of the ones that, you know, to this day just stand out in your mind, either big wins or big losses?
So a lot of times I would be the opener in the book and I would be gone by halftime. I would open the book in the morning, and then when the game finished, the halftime finished and the third quarter started, I'd be gone. So I was never around for the grading. But the last 2 years, you know, being in the risk room and, you know, just being who I am and what I do, I was doing the end game. So I had to be there the whole game. And so, you know, I didn't open the book. I came in later and I booked the entire end game for both Super Bowls the last 2 years. And it was a blast. Every play, you know, the numbers up, and I did it, you know, the algorithm, the system, it spits out a number. Well, I just used it as a guide. I didn't use the number. I would make it, you know, I was trying to take as much money as I could in the game and, you know, have the bosses go, what the hell are you doing? Oh, we're just taking bets. Like they gave me carte blanche. So that was fun. But by doing that, I got to be in the room as props got graded. So it was so much fun. So like, I think it was last year, it might've been the one before. The coin flip, all this stuff is done, right? We do all the props. The coin flip is the most bet on prop, and it's not close. It's not close. Like, I've seen it now for a decade. The Super Bowl coin flip prop has the most volume on it, unless you take, 100,000 on props, which on it no one does. You take, smaller limits. I've taken a $50,000 bet on a coin flip.
Were you doing minus 103 on both sides? Minus 05?
Yes.
03?
Yeah, minus 03. Yeah. And I've taken a $50,000 bet. Personally, taken a $50,000 bet on the coin flip. So you start to, there's a guy that sits in the room. Once the game kicks, everybody grabs food because you've been sitting there just grinding and taking bets and moving numbers. And I have the index props. You have the player props. You have this, and the head guy's got the game, and who's got the first half, who's got all the quarters. Like, everybody's watching something, because with the apps now, stuff flies through. You have multiple locations. You have stuff coming from here, from there. Like, some operators are managing from different states. So everybody's watching something. Once the game kicks, I was by myself working. The in-game guy I was by myself, taking the bets, moving the numbers, doing all that. Everyone else got their food. Then someone's assigned to grade everything. So, all right, what's a coin flip? Tails? All right, grade it. Tails. Oh, fuck. We just lost 38,000. What? We're stuck 38 dimes already? Yeah, we needed heads. Oh, my God. Here we go. And then, all right, opening kickoff's a touchback. Grade it. Hey, we just picked up 3,600. We needed a touchback. Perfect. Okay. And it's amazing, because the guy that grades it, and then, there's a function that, if you're paying any attention in the room, you can see what that particular last grading thing was the result. And if you don't know, like, we had a guy who was in charge, not of the risk room, of the whole company, who needed to know what every prop was, the result. So he made the guy yell it out in the room. What was that worth? Well, all right, we just won 9,800. Good. Okay. But when it lost, Mahomes' first pass is a completion or incompletion. Oh, fuck, it was a completion. He grades it. And what was that? How was that? And the guy would go, we just lost 12 dimes. Like, he didn't want to say it. When we won, he would scream it out. Yeah, we won 8,600. Oh, great. Well, and he would not say it the same way. So everyone in the room knew we lost. and the guy in charge would go, well, that sucks. He should have come, whatever it was. He was so negative that it was Mahomes' fault that we lost 12 dimes, because he didn't complete, or he threw a completion instead of an incompletion. Like, there was so much money at stake with so many different plays. First play, runner pass, graded. So it was great. I don't know. I love that, the instantaneous feedback. And I'm sitting there and I'm taking, last year's Super Bowl, I was trying to take 5 dimes a bet in game. I raised the limits, and said, listen, you want to bet the in-game? We'll take 5. I begged. I think the first year we took 5. Last year we took 10, because 2 years ago that game was such a dud. There was no action. Nothing was happening. So the in-game wagering was a complete bust. It just wasn't any volume. Like, the game sat. It finished 13-3. So there was only 1 touchdown. That year, there's another story it just reminded me of. The no score. There won't be a touchdown in the game. Will the first score be a field goal, a touchdown, or this or that, or will there be no touchdown? Like, that's a ridiculous number, right? I can't remember off the top of my head, but I know it was probably close to 100-1, maybe 80-1 or something. If there wasn't like the cheer in the risk room when the Patriots finally scored a touchdown, and I believe it was the 3rd or 4th quarter when they did, that was a mini disaster averted. Like, whoo, we got a touchdown. We didn't care who it was. If it was the guy who was going to score the first touchdown, the biggest liability, it wasn't even close to what that would have been had no touchdown been scored. So, you see the swings right there, and you know what you're rooting for. Now, even you use the in game to maybe offset something, So if you're in a heavy position, like on this game, on the Buccaneers, for whatever reason, you're heavy on the Bucs, you can use the in game price and get the Chiefs money while you're watching the game. So, yeah, man, it's fun. It is really, really cool. It's one of the best things that I've done in the industry is to book the Super Bowl, make the props, and then see the fun results as you go. And then, by the end of the day, you guys see the numbers. Everybody sees the numbers. People who listen to the show see the numbers. The books do okay. It's pretty rare that the books lose. I know the one that really hurt that the books lost was the Marshawn Lynch play. That was the outburst there, because the books, we needed Seattle huge. I mean, it was a gigantic decision. We're talking multiple zeros on this thing. And he's going to go in. I mean, Seattle's just going to give it to Lynch, and they're going to score, and the book's going to have a monster. Everybody that's on a bonus is already, thinking about what island they're going to, or, what down payment they may go get a car cash. I don't know what the guy's bonus structures were, but I know it was going to be huge. And he throws that pick, and the expletives that come out of the top guy's mouth, the CEO, he was hard. He was like a really, I heard an expression about him. He could make a cup of coffee nervous. I mean, he was that kind of guy. He motherfucked everybody. And then total silence in the room. And it's like what a locker room is like in professional sports when the team loses in the championship or in the semifinals. Not a word is said. Nobody knows. Nobody wants to even breathe. Don't even look at anybody. Just finish grading the game and go home. When it happened, I heard it. I was out front at the counter, and I said, I said to the guy, you better call the cage and tell them we need a fill. We're going to be here cashing tickets all night long. Don't say a word about it to anybody, because I know what's coming. And the main guy came out with his two, cohorts. I used to call them, his boys, his flunkies, whatever they were. And they stormed out. And the other guy that's a very good friend came out, and I said, how bad was it? And he goes, it was bad. Yeah. I said, I heard it. He goes, I wanted to crawl under my desk. It was so bad. They're like, yeah, I'm glad I wasn't back there for that one. But yeah, that was one too. That was just a gigantic decision. So it's been a blast. I get stories that we could talk about for days.
Oh, man, those are great. So, and I've always wondered about this too, is, these 2 weeks, like you said, we talked about this already. The number kind of sets itself, then it sits there for a while. And then it sort of becomes about managing risk on the props and, kind of figuring out what's going on with that whole picture. During that 2 weeks, Dave, because you can't bet at your own book, but you can go around town to other places and get some bets down and stuff like that. Did you do that on your own time and make some plays in some other places? Or were you just kind of like, you know what, I'm done with this game for now. I've worked on it for 10, 12 hours. I want to forget about it until tomorrow. How did you sort of treat it as, separate from work, as kind of a fan, and then, with your personal action?
So, you got your boys, just like everyone does, that's listening, and you and I, we would talk about it before we actually put the numbers up. Then you would sit there and see people make plays, or, watch numbers move, or, you knew if the Westgate moved it, I wonder who's betting it over there. Oh, well, if William Hill moved it, I probably know who's betting it there. And I'm that person, I'm either I know you or I'm one layer away. So I could reach out to anybody and go, hey, do you like this? Or did you just have to move that because it was a square? That was a guy from out of town, and you trade information like that. And then you make your own decision. And so me and a couple other guys used to go back and forth about you know, I liked one of the props that I bet pretty much every year is, will a team punt or score first? Both teams have a line on it. Both teams. So I make my own number. I literally say, all right, well, you know, last year's matchup, you go and look, and Kansas City's first drive resulted in points more than it didn't. So it's not 110. It's probably 130, 140. Well, it opened 110. Well, I'm going to play it. So like this year, I haven't looked yet, but you know, Kansas City, I can't remember the last time they scored on the first drive. I will have to go back and look. So personally, you narrow it down because it's just too much. Like you can't go through and search every one. Like Leonard Fournette's rushing yards, it doesn't matter. It's 49.5 or 52.5. I haven't looked, but that's what it's been all year. Why is it different? So I don't care. I mean, until somebody shoots me a text or says, hey, did you see, Rampart's number on Fournette's rushing yards? It's way low. And you go and look, and it's 36.5. Okay, well. So I relied on a lot of guys to give me a heads up on that stuff. But I know I had to, like the first year I came out and was the first year I worked in the book, I did what every, tourist does. I bet too much. Even if they were $20 a bet. Like I bet everything because I was like, I'm in a book. I'm working in the Super Bowl. This is great. Blah, 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 blah. Like I want to have all these bets. I did that before I moved here. I came out and I was that guy that went to the window with the sheets, had no plan, had no idea what I was doing. I just know I had cash on me and I was going to come bet the Super Bowl. And I remember I went up to the window at Bally's and I said, hey, I'm going to make some Super Bowl bets. And this guy looked at me and he sized me up in 2 seconds. He put his head down, his hand in his head, or, his head in his hands and was like, all right. I started betting. I made 27 bets at $25 a piece going through the sheets. The transaction may have taken an hour. He wanted to kill me by the end. And I was like, I didn't even realize what I was doing. And then, after I sat down and I realized I probably could have done this better. And I waited until, it was late. It was after midnight. It was probably 1:30 in the morning. The guy was towards the end of his shift and he had to deal with me going through the thing. I went back up later and he saw me coming. He's like, he looked at me like, don't ask me anything. It's definitely don't make more bets. I'm like, hey man, is there a better way to do this if I come back up and do this again? And he was like, yeah. And he explained it to me. So I never made that mistake again. So until the first Super Bowl, I was working in the book and I'm like, but at least I knew how to make the bets, but I overbet it. And I think that's the thing that you can take away from, your question that probably happened 8 minutes ago. I know I'm talking so much, but you don't have to overbet this stuff. You can. It's because there's such a big menu and it's easy to spread yourself too thin. And then, you made a lot of good bets, but you made a lot of just action bets. And then the net result is either negative or very small win or win. I think you concentrate on a couple things and you can really find, some strong winners for sure.
Something else I'm curious about for the sake of our listeners here, obviously, again, as we've talked about, the Super Bowl is far and away the single biggest wagering event of the year. Obviously March Madness is a lot of different games that come together for a big tournament. But, I'm just looking here, Dave, and like next week, there's over 100 college basketball games on Saturday, February 6th. Oh. So, with that in mind, do you get into situations in the book where, because the Super Bowl is coming up, because you've got 600, 700, 800 props, whatever the case may be, do things kind of, for lack of a better term, slack off on the other sports? Is there less focus paid to those? Maybe more opportunities for, bettors to take advantage?
In a word, yes. Hell yes. It's exhausting. The Saturdays in January are harder than Super Bowl Sunday. There's so many college basketball games, and they're all day from beginning to night, beginning of the day, morning till night. It's just so hard. And they're better. Like I used to say it all the time. The guys on the other side of the counter are better at college basketball than the books. The guys that are really good at it, they're just better. So forget about like Super Bowl Saturday, the weekend of the Super Bowl. That is I said it the first week that I worked in a book in Vegas. Saturday is probably the single hardest day of the year because of the college basketball. It is so tough. I mean, there's a lot of opportunity. I don't know where it is. You'll see it when you're in the book. You know right away. Like, God damn it, I wasn't even looking. He got me there. They double popped this. So you had to be assigned. Like managing the college basketball on that Saturday was what became normally a 2 or 3 person day. Where you had 2 guys splitting the board. I got the top half, you got the bottom half, and then the third guy would come in and he would relieve. Everybody would be there for a while. So now one guy was doing the first halves, one guy was doing the half times, and one guy was doing the games or whatever. Like you split it up however you wanted, but you had enough eyes on it. Saturday, the Super Bowl, now you got the props going too. And you got people here. And you got the apps. You got all this stuff. College basketball Saturday that day, yeah, it got a little bit lax, let's say, and there's definitely opportunity. So if you're looking now for next Saturday, you'll be able to find it in spots. Just don't, like I used to tell guys all the time, don't be a pig about it. Like if you normally bet $100, don't bet a dime on it, even if it's off, if it's slow to move. You can bet it for your unit. If it doesn't, move, bet it again. Don't bet it 10 times though. Just bet it and take some extra because you're going to get flagged if you're doing that. Because guys make it personal. Like it never bothered me. It's on me if I don't move the number. You can hit it. You can hit it. You can hit it. And I go and look. I go, God damn it! How did we get 12 dimes high on this game? Oh, well, they bet it for 3 times. Why didn't we move the number? Well, who was watching it? And then, well, that's on us. If they all came at the same time from, Adam, Dave, and, Smoke, like my brother-in-law, like, okay, we kind of screwed it around the limits and we weren't playing fair. But if you bet it 3 times and it's 2 minutes apart, whatever your setting is on your account, that's on me. I didn't move it. Well, that happens in college basketball Saturday for a Super Bowl weekend. So just don't be a pig about it. You can go and bet it for, an extra pop, whatever your unit is, and then go find something else to bet. You leave it alone. Like take the dub if that's what you're going to do. Just because I'm telling you, it's a long game. Like you don't want to get kicked out. You don't want to get limited because then it's hard to find another out and all that stuff. And we used to have guys like slide in, baseball futures on that Saturday in the middle of 18 halftimes of college basketball. Blah 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 blah. All right, we're going to send the Mets to win the World Series for 2 dimes when it's 80-1. Well, wait a second, what are you doing right now? So you go and look. You don't even have to look. Why is somebody betting the Mets for 2 dimes at 80-1 right now? Well, let me take a check. Let's look across the different markets or at some other books. The Mets are 60-1 or 50-1 in most places. We just haven't taken a bet on it, so we're at 80-1, and the guy's sliding it right in. Now, sometimes you just take the bet because you go, oh, well, the Mets aren't going to win, and he got a better price. That's fine. Or you have a cap where, listen, we take the baseball futures to win 100,000 on a number. So you got to call the book in the middle of all these college basketball halftimes, and you got to go, who's the guy? Well, it's someone from the Wilpon family. Like it's Bobby Valentine. It doesn't matter who it is, but you call and ask that question because if it's one of the goofs that are trying to steal, then you go, yeah, he can have it for a dime. And you just kind of let him know that, like, listen, you could have bet this Friday. You could have bet this Monday because it hasn't moved in 2 months. It's not going to move. No one's going through the baseball futures now. We're not. We're trying to just stay alive during college basketball Saturday. Like, you bet it right now. So you kind of just give it back a little bit and go, yeah, you can have it for a dime. And then you move it from 80 to 1 to the current market price. And then all of a sudden they're not interested. Okay, that's fine. Or you just give the guy the bet and say, yeah, he got us, and we go into the market price if that's your tolerance, your risk level. But Saturdays in January are the hardest Saturdays all year, except for the Saturday of the Super Bowl. That is the single hardest day to manage with all the books, I think, of any Saturday all year.
And I love getting this stuff from the other side of the counter. I think it's just so fascinating. I've always been very interested, in kind of what happens, the thought process, the mindset, and of course, especially to get it from somebody who does have, a little bit of a higher risk profile, a higher risk tolerance than a lot of what we see out there. So definitely love the insights here from you, Dave. Last thing I want to ask you about, just in case we don't get you back on the show before this game actually kicks off, what do you like? Anything that you got your eye on here?
It's so funny because I saw some guys again last night, and they're like, hey, Davey, what do you got for me? I'm like, what do I got for you? What do you mean? Oh, you always have something. You always do. And I'm like, well, I don't know. I mean, I don't want to, be total, follow the crowd or square, but, the yes on the 3 consecutive scores, it wins every year. They bet it the opposite way. They do all the time. How could a team score 3 consecutive times? The total in this game is 56. It would open 57. There's going to be touchdowns. There's going to be scores. So either the team, I was telling the guy last night, I'm like, listen, it's usually late second quarter. They drive down, kick a field goal, and they've scored a touchdown before that. And then they get the ball to start the third quarter, come down, opening drive of the third quarter, another scripted drive, kick a field goal or score a touchdown, or, they drive and punt, and then, the other team goes 3 and out, and then they score. So it happens way more than you think. I like the 3 consecutive scores, yes. The other one that I've seen for, it feels like 100 years, but it's only 20, taking bets and watching people continue to lose and burn money, and trying to explain it to someone, because when I worked in the book, I wasn't trying to take your money. I was rooting for you to win, because most of the time when you won, especially, people that either worked for tips or they would leave tips. So the book was going to win no matter what, because when you're managing the money, the books, unless you really take a stand and you take bigger limits on certain things that are going to cost you, it's pretty hard to lose. So I was rooting for people to win all the time, not the assholes. The assholes, you didn't, just like being in a press box. You don't openly root in the press box, but you secretly, you're rooting for the asshole to strike out all the time, and he gets up, and you same at the book. The guys that is a jag off, you want him to, if he loses, you're not going to lose any sleep over. Let's put it that way. So I watch people forever, what it feels like, come in and bet over 1.5 yards for the longest touchdown or the shortest touchdown. They bet over 1.5. And there's a 1-yard dive, quarterback sneak. Now, a shovel pass. It happens every game. It feels like it. So bet under 1.5. There's going to be a 1 yard now it's a play. You throw a ball up in the end zone and get a pass interference call in the end zone. They put the ball on the 1, and whether the quarterback runs it in, the fullback runs it in, the halfback runs it in, they throw it in. It's a 1-yard play. It happens all the time. So those are the 2 that stick out to me, that are it's plug and play. You can kind of, and the prices aren't bad. You're not going to be laying big juice on either one of those. You may actually get plus juice on 1 or 2 or 1 or either. But those are the 2 immediate ones. Side and total, man, this is a hard game. I like Kansas City. I just think Kansas City is going to win. And I've been saying since September, that Tampa's not going to win the Super Bowl, so I can't let go of that now. Like, I've been on so many shows dating back then. I didn't think that Brady would be so successful. I didn't think that he wouldn't be successful. I didn't think Tampa's defense was a championship defense. I did not see it as being that. And I have been, not totally convinced, but Tampa can win this game. Tampa 100% can win this game. So when I look at it and I go, all right, it's 3. It's Chiefs -3. The game's in their stadium. So, I think that matters a little bit. I've talked to guys that, it doesn't matter at all. Well, I disagree. I think it does matter. They're staying at home all week. It's not the Super Bowl week that it normally is. Maybe they're going to put them in a hotel the second week, but maybe they won't. I don't know. I don't think there's an edge either way. So would either team win by 10? Yes. Well, when I think that, I'm not looking to bet the side at all. And the total, this being this high, I can see it going over. No problem. And usually in a game this high, like, you got to think under's the play. Like, that's what I know. I've taken the bets for years. When you put a total 55, the first bets you take are under. They always bet these under. And it's usually in their favor. They win more than they lose when they do it. So, but could this game go over? Could both teams get in the 30s? Could we see a 35-31 game? Hell yeah, we could. So, side and total, people ask me. I got the kids asking me, even the girls on the team I coach. Like, Coach Dave, what do you think's going to happen in the Super Bowl? I just hope it's a good game. That's all I want, because, like, this is the first year in 20 years that I'm not going to be working Super Bowl Sunday, whether it's open to halftime or, I get to come in at 10 o'clock and stay until 10 o'clock. First year for me in the last one was, I think, 2002. That was not, came as a fan and did the whole Super Bowl party experience and did it. It was great. So I'm looking forward to just watching the game, like, and chilling out. I will not watch the pregame at all. By then, you're just, like, done. We used to put everything on mute in the office. No one wanted to hear what Howie or Terry or anyone said. No one cared. We were busy working, just taking bets, moving numbers. So I might actually watch the pregame for a minute or two. But I just hope the game's a good game. That's what I'm rooting for.
That sounds good to me. And this has been a great show here with Dave Sharapan at SportsBKConsig on Twitter. And you've got your own podcast, the Cash Considerations Podcast.
I do. Gaming Today just got sold. So we're going to rebrand it, but it's on Twitter. It's at GT Cash Consider. It was me and a couple odds makers. And those guys, Alan Berg and Mo Pearson, took a job with WinBet. They're managing risk now for Win Not Nevada, currently open in Colorado and New Jersey. And so they had to take a step back from doing the show because they're trying to build a room and do that again. So it's just me on the show. You were on the show a couple weeks ago. It was a great show. I try to bring in somebody from the industry that, maybe he's not the same mainstream characters that you see on all the shows. Like, because there's so many guys. Like you, we talked about it off the air. Like, you've been doing this grind for such a long time, and there's not, like, people don't know that. So I love giving the platform to people like that I know, and yourself, but no one else knows. And there's a great Jim Moore quote that you can go find on YouTube. You think you know, you don't know, and you never will. And I love delivering it in all these shows and things that I do. It's a gambling line that he applied to football, but it's true. So that's what we talk about on the podcast. I bring people on, and then we talk about the current numbers. We talk about, during football, we break down some games. We pick, the best games and talk about them and line moves and things like that. But it's all done in the context of this, of sitting down and having a conversation and basically allowing everyone to eavesdrop. And we're not trying to sell you anything. We're certainly the first one to tell you nobody knows shit, including us. Like you just, it's sports betting. It's, if we learned anything from, the GameStop debacle, whatever that was that went on yesterday, markets can be manipulated. You don't know why a guy's betting this. You don't know why this is happening. You don't know. So the great equalizer is the game has to be played. And you can have the best bet in the world. I've seen great numbers lose all the time. And I've seen the worst bets in the world win. So that's the business. And it's a fun podcast that I'm going to continue to do one way or the other. And anyone that follows, man, hopefully you get something out of it and you enjoy it, because it's just it's the business, man. Like that's what draws us in, and hopefully that's what we give back. When I do the show.
No, absolutely. I think this show's been a big draw. I think everything that you do is a big draw, and you've been all over the place. Lots of podcasts, been cited in articles. For people that don't follow Dave on Twitter, you absolutely need to @SportsBKConsig and check out all the fine work that he's doing, that he's been a part of. You're a great resource, a very good friend, and a tremendous asset for everybody here in this business. And I'm sure that will only continue as we get closer to the Super Bowl and beyond. So, Dave, appreciate your time, man. Thank you so much for joining me, and we'll talk to you again real soon.
Can't wait, man. We'll talk this week, and, let's make those plans for March, brother.
Absolutely, man. There you go. There's Dave Sharapan again @SportsBKConsig on Twitter. The Cash Considerations podcast from Gaming Today is his, but you can find him just appearing on a lot of different things here at this point in time. Coming up on Monday, we'll chat college basketball with Kyle Hunter, professional bettor and handicapper from HunterSportsPicks.com, and also give you some of our thoughts. I'm going to try and stagger my prop bets throughout the week, but we'll get Kyle's on Monday's show here after the weekend. That'll do it for me. Thank you so much for listening, everybody. Have a happy, healthy, smart, safe weekend, and I will talk to you again on Monday.